Cyberpunk 2077 was one of the most anticipated games of 2020. It had won over 100 awards before it was even released, including Best Game at E3, Best Xbox One Game, Best VC by PC Gamer, Game of the Show by Games Radar, dozens of awards. This was one of the most anticipated games of all time. Whilst not being GTA 6 level or close, it was still pretty damn anticipated. People were desperate for this game. CD Projekt Red, a few years before, had released The Witcher 3, one of the greatest games of all time, and a futuristic game set in a futuristic city seemed like it could be one of the games of all time. Because of this, the game had absolutely millions of pre-orders, but in spite of all of this, it started off as one of the greatest flops in gaming history. When the game released, it released to mixed reviews. People who reviewed it on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, as well as advanced PCs, were pretty impressed. Whilst the newer consoles it still was quite buggy, on advanced PCs the game ran pretty well. But in general, on the old consoles, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, the game was a buggy mess. Now, the game itself had so many game-breaking bugs. I mean, it was incredible. It was one of the biggest scandals of the time because PlayStation even offered refunds. That's how broken the game was on PlayStation 4. The launch was completely disastrous. There were tons of bugs, game-breaking issues, performance issues. I mean, it was incredible. Every single bug you can think of happened somehow. On top of this, a lot of what was promised never actually came out or was very underwhelming, such as NPC routines. So, for example, in Red Dead Redemption 2, NPCs have daily routines which they perform, and they are very intricate, they're very well done, and a lot of them are very, very individual. And this wasn't even bragged about or posted about much by Rockstar, whereas in Cyberpunk, NPC routines was kind of not a big selling point, but a selling point they pushed. And a lot of the NPCs were seen to walk around in circles. The launch was a total disaster. I got the game on release day. I believe I pre-ordered it a couple of days before I bought into the hype and I pre-ordered it. And I played about an hour. And it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't too buggy for me, but I was looking at all the reviews and thinking, okay, maybe I shouldn't commit time to this if there are so many bugs. So I didn't play it, and I didn't play it for a few years. Now, in these few years, CD Projekt Red could have abandoned the game. Or at the very least, they could have not worked on it as much. They already had millions of pre-orders and millions of sales. It was already a respectable financial success. But what they decided to do instead was work on the game. Slowly but surely, they decided to work on the game and make this into the masterpiece that it deserved to be. Now, the incredible comeback of Cyberpunk was already underway really within the first year. They released bug fixes. They released so many bug fixes. They released tons of technical fixes, tons of updates, mini updates, performance updates, and the game was starting to become very stable by 2021 and 2022. They released multiple hotfixes straight away, obviously to try and patch some of the large game-breaking issues, to say the least, that they had. In January, they released their first, actual official patch. Now, this improved stability. It fixed a lot of quests. It fixed UI issues, visual issues, achievement issues, and it really was quite a large patch. And after this, they released 2 more hotfixes before, at the end of March of 2021, they released patch 1.2. And this was really the start of them molding the game into where it should be. They fixed an absolute ton of issues, but they also made a lot of big changes to the game and small changes to the game, which really, really helped the game feel like it should. Now, you can read the patch notes. It is ridiculous how many things they added in this, but they were molding the game into how it should be, and they were releasing tons more patches. I mean, the amount of stuff they were adding was ridiculous throughout 2021, and this increased even in 2022. They released so many updates. I mean, honestly, it is ridiculous. In patch 1.5, they added new weapons, they added new apartments, they added a mirror where you could kind of customize your hair, they added new ray tracing, they added a rebalance of the economy, loot systems, gameplay, they increased crowd reactions, they improved how the world reacted to you, and this was at the start of 2022. This was a massive patch they dropped out of nowhere. And this was, for me, when the games truly started to take form into what it should be. This is where the game really should be. And throughout 2022, they started releasing, more updates, more, ray tracing updates, fixing issues. They added quests, they fixed quests. They were molding the game into perfection. And this is where I started playing the game. So I put about 30 hours into this game in my first playthrough. I kind of speed ran it in a way. I didn't do too much of the side content. I was in love with this game. The story of this game is incredible. I don't think it needs to be told how unbelievable this game is. I've made videos on it and I'm going to make more videos on it. I mean, the characters are exceptional. This probably has up there with Baldur's Gate 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2 in terms of the best cast of characters. Mr. Hands is a great fixer. El Capitan, great fixer. The fixers are amazing. The companions, I suppose you could call them, in River, Judy, Panam, Kerry. They are such captivating companions. They're such captivating romance options. Johnny's an unbelievable character. He's one of my favourite characters in gaming. He's incredibly acted. Honestly, the story is masterfully crafted. Every character, from the big characters to the small ones with big corporations to the little groups, everything in this world has been crafted to perfection, and the story is incredible. I mean, the main game, the DLC, I'll talk about DLC later, but the main story and the, side quests, main quests, they're exceptional. I love the characters you meet in this game. I love the locations you go to, the quests you do. The quests don't really feel like fetch quests. They feel like well-crafted, they fit into the story. I cannot overstate how incredible the story of this game is. How you can get so immersed in it and how there's so much to do and how it always just brings me back to the game. I want to come back constantly. And anyway, in 2022, Cyberpunk had kind of fixed it. But in 2023 is when they took their step forward. Just before they released Phantom Liberty, they added a new police system, they added vehicle combat, they added combat AI enhancements, they changed how you did net running, they added a massive overhaul of a perk tree, they added new cyberware, new weapons, new vehicles, they changed traffic, they changed how NPCs work, they rebalanced the economy, they added way more loot, they scaled loot, they added crafting updates, they added new vendors, they added improved vendors, they improved their audio, they improved the UI, they fixed quests, they increased stability. This update was gigantic and it was for free. And honestly, this update completely changed the game because the game was in the state that it was meant to be. People were calling this Cyberpunk 2.0 and that effectively is what it was. I ended up doing a second playthrough of the game in about 2024 and it is still ongoing now. I'm still playing this playthrough. I've put about probably 100 hours into it. I've done so much side content and the improvement from even when I played in 2022 is unbelievable. All the quests were polished. I have not encountered really a single bug. There's not even funny bugs like Bethesda bugs where a body will go flying for no reason. It's just perfect. The quests just felt better somehow. The quests of Judy, Panam, River, Kerry, they all felt more polished and the story was able to shine because there was no technical issues. The gameplay and combat is incredible. It's probably the best combat system I've ever played in a game. The vehicle system was vastly improved and it's super fun to just ride around on a motorcycle or a bike because it's that mix between Need for Speed and kind of Forza in respect that it's not hyper-realistic. It's not that realistic in general, but it's also not crazy like Need for Speed. You know what I mean? It's a very balanced driving system. The economy feels balanced. The weapons are amazing. The story in general is allowed to shine. But then Cyberpunk released Phantom Liberty. And don't even get me started on that. Phantom Liberty easily makes the top 3 DLCs I've ever played. It is up there for me with Fallout 4's Far Harbor DLC, which for me is unbelievable. I think it's very underrated, but also with the Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC. This DLC not only overhauled Cyberpunk and completely changed it, and by the way, has sold over 8 million units, which for a DLC is ridiculous. It's won tons of accolades, deservedly so. And whilst a large part, of this update and its success was the fact that it introduced tons of new features, it introduced, overhauls I mentioned previously, etc., and it did introduce an entirely new area in Dogtown, as well as the Night City spaceport for the ending missions, I don't think this is where it shone. I think where this DLC shone was the story and the characters, because I cannot explain enough how incredibly crafted this story is. This is probably the only DLC and the only game, I guess, even game in general, where I can genuinely, honestly say most of the decisions were tough. Most of the decisions were truly morally grey. Now, without spoiling anything in the game or in the DLC, one of them, there are two major decisions where it splits the story in two, first of all, and then the ending decision is also a massive one. Now, both of these decisions, especially the ending decision, are exceptionally tough to make. I mean, it is so morally complex. I was sitting there for ages, for probably 20, 30, 40 minutes, trying to figure out which I should do because of how tough it is. How do you decide how to make this decision? That is what makes an unbelievable story and an unbelievable piece of art, is how well crafted the ending was. The story in general is a masterstroke. I mean, the missions itself are brilliant. There's a mission where you go to a casino, or a party, with a casino in it, hosted by Kurt Hansen, the owner of Dogtown, effectively. This is incredible. There's a performance by Lizzie Wizzy in there, a character in the game, and it's unbelievable. It's a performance within a mission, within a DLC, which stands out incredibly. It's an unbelievable piece of art. And the DLC in general, the characters you interact with, Alex, Reed, Songbird. Songbird and Reed are two of my favourite characters in gaming. They are exceptionally crafted. They are so well done. They are so complex. Morally, their motives are almost relatable. You can sympathise with them and their sympathetic motives, but they can be quite brutal. They're very morally grey. Honestly, all the characters in the DLC have some level of morality to them, some morally grey aspects to them. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's basically, you have to choose between, do you work for the corporation, do you work for NUSA, or do you follow Johnny and kind of stick it out as a rebel in this game? The choices are hard. The story is gripping. It's unbelievable. Solomon Reed, performed by Idris Elba, does an unbelievable job. I mean, the voice acting and the motion capture is genius. Songbird is also acted similarly exceptionally. I mean, all the characters in it are well voiced. There's not a character where I think the voice work is poor, even for the side characters. They're all compelling. I mean, it really is incredible. And the ending, again, an ending where it should be potentially seen as one of the best, is seen as one of the worst because of the moral grey aspects to it. So really, this DLC has everything. It has action, it has storytelling, it has great setting. It is a masterwork, and this is what Cyberpunk should have been from the start. And if Cyberpunk had been like this from the start, it would have won every Game of the Year award that year. It would have probably won every award ever. I mean, it's incredible. The DLC is Cyberpunk at its peak, at its best, and it has received unbelievable critical acclaim. It's loved, and it has put Cyberpunk back on the map as a success story, and I think completed Cyberpunk's comeback as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. For me, Cyberpunk 2077 is my second favourite game of all time, behind Red Dead Redemption 2. It beats out games such as Fallout, Metal Gear, Witcher, Mass Effect, Baldur's Gate. There's so many games I have below this because of how ridiculous the storytelling is, because of how well the game is done. It's so rare that a game perfectly balances storytelling, gameplay, vehicles, weaponry, characters, acting. Everything is perfect. In fact, the only weak point, in my opinion, is the voice acting of the main character, V. I don't think that's particularly well done. That's just a separate video, but in general, this game is a masterpiece, and it should have been a masterpiece. It was tarnished by this layer of bugs and issues and broken promises. But over the last 3 years, Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red, rather than, focusing on another game, rather than dwelling on their sorrow and their failure, they worked incredibly hard to make this game into a polished masterpiece. And the game now is one of the best. If you have not played this game, you should play it. If you've played this game, you should come back to it. And if you're playing this game right now, you know how incredible it is. I cannot praise this enough. I love this game more than Red Dead. Red Dead is my favourite game. It is objectively the best game I've ever played, but Cyberpunk probably is my favourite game in terms of how much I love the world, the characters, the lore, the story. It is so gripping. It is an absolutely genius piece of gaming. It's a beautiful piece of art. Everything about this game is exceptional, and I've been really just singing its praises this whole time. There is very little I can say bad about it, apart from sometimes V's voice acting is a little bit off, and there were bugs at the start. The game now is in a state where if you hop into this game on any console, it will be an enjoyable experience. It will be one of the best experiences you've ever had in gaming. The comeback of this game is well and truly complete, and they are going to be releasing more updates. They've released more updates since the Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty update. They've released multiple patches, in fact, which have, even up until as recently as January of this year, where they add a photo mode, which, that had been asked for a while. You can customize the vehicle colour, you can create a character. They added new quests with the fixed issues. They have completed the comeback of this game, and I believe there'll be more to come in the future. This game is a masterpiece. And bearing in mind, this game was at one point considered to be the biggest flop in gaming history, with the start I mentioned, full of bugs, awful. It went from being a giant, one of the most hyped games of all time, to being a laughingstock, to being compared with Fallout 76. It had a disastrous launch. And over the last few years, some games, like Fallout 76, have brought the game back a little bit. It's a decent game now, but it had an awful launch. Cyberpunk didn't just take it from probably the worst launch ever, and they didn't take it to be an average game. They didn't make it, like a Mass Effect Andromeda, where it was an awful launch, but an alright game in the end. No, they took this to be an awful launch, but they took it to be one of the greatest games of all time. And Phantom Liberty, as a DLC, cemented this. The DLC is one of the greatest ever, and it made the base game one of the greatest ever with everything they added. The comeback of Cyberpunk is legendary. And in my opinion, it's the greatest video game comeback of all time. So that was my thoughts on the fall and the rise of Cyberpunk 2077, the greatest video game comeback in history. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll try and make videos similar to this in the future. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.